A kilometer down in water with no light in it, the loudest animal that has ever been measured is making a sound. A sperm whale click has been recorded at around 230 decibels, referenced to 1 micropascal at 1 meter. That number is not comparable to the decibels on a phone app, because underwater acoustics use a different reference. Converted honestly, it is still the most powerful biological sound known, and it is louder than a rifle shot fired next to your head. The popular claim is that the whale uses this to kill. That it aims the click at a squid and stuns it, a sonic weapon that stops prey in the water so it can be swallowed at leisure. It is a good story. It has been repeated for 40 years. The evidence for it is weak, and most researchers who study these animals do not think it is what is happening. What the whale is actually doing is stranger and more impressive. It has converted a third of its body length into an instrument for building a picture of a world it cannot see. The click is not a weapon. It is a flashlight made of sound, and the animal is using it to find a squid in total darkness, at a range of hundreds of meters, from a body that weighs as much as a lorry. To understand how loud that is, and why it has to be, you have to start with the problem the animal is solving. It hunts in the deep ocean. There is no light there at all. Its prey is soft-bodied, fast, and lives in 3 dimensions across an enormous volume of water. And the whale has to breathe, which means every hunt is on a clock. The front third of a sperm whale is not brain and it is not muscle. It is an acoustic device. Inside the enormous squared-off forehead sit 2 large oil-filled structures. The upper one is the spermaceti organ, a case of waxy liquid. Below it lies a body of fatty tissue that whalers, with no interest in anatomy, named the junk. Together they occupy a volume that in a large male can be several meters long. The sound starts at the front of the head, not the back. Air is forced through a valve structure near the blowhole that researchers call the museau de singe, the monkey's muzzle. That produces a sharp pulse. The pulse travels backwards through the spermaceti organ to an air sac against the skull, reflects forward, passes through the junk, and leaves the front of the head as a tight beam. That round trip is the reason the click is so powerful. Each reflection sends part of the energy out again slightly delayed, so a single pulse becomes a train of pulses. The interval between them is set by the length of the organ, which means it is set by the size of the animal. Researchers can estimate the body length of a sperm whale from the spacing inside its clicks. The whale is broadcasting its own dimensions. The junk works as a lens. Sound travels at different speeds through tissues of different density, and the layered structure focuses the outgoing pulse into a narrow forward beam instead of letting it spread in all directions. This is why the recorded intensity is so extreme directly in front of the animal and drops sharply off to the side. The loudest sound in nature is also one of the most tightly aimed. Echolocation is a brutally lossy way to sense the world. You emit a sound, it travels out, some fraction of it hits the target, some fraction of that scatters back towards you, and it weakens the whole way in both directions. Doubling the distance you want to detect something, it costs you far more than double the power. The energy you get back from a squid at 400 meters is a whisper of a whisper. The target makes it worse. A squid is mostly water. It has no swim bladder, no dense skeleton, almost nothing that reflects sound strongly. Acoustically, it is close to invisible. Finding one at range with sound is like trying to spot a jellyfish in a swimming pool by shouting at it. The only lever the whale has is to shout much, much harder. And the animal is on a deadline. A sperm whale dive routinely goes past 1,000 meters and can last well over an hour, but every second spent searching is a second of held breath. It cannot afford to swim around a dark ocean hoping to bump into food. It needs to scan a large volume quickly, identify something worth chasing, and commit. That is a design requirement for range, and range is what the volume buys. You can hear the hunt change shape in the recordings. Long-range searching uses slow, regularly spaced clicks, roughly 1 or 2 a second, sweeping the water. When the whale closes on a target, the clicks accelerate into a buzz that researchers call a creak, dozens per second, because at short range it wants constant updates rather than reach. It is the sound of an animal switching from searching to aiming. The acoustic stunning idea has a respectable origin. It was proposed in the early 1980s by researchers including Kenneth Norris, one of the founders of the field, as a way to explain something that genuinely needed explaining: how a slow, enormous animal catches fast, agile squid in the dark. If the click could debilitate prey, the mismatch disappears. It was a reasonable hypothesis. The problem is that 40 years of looking has not produced the evidence. Squid recovered from sperm whale stomachs are frequently intact and undamaged rather than showing the tissue injury you would expect from being hit by a debilitating pressure wave. Attempts to reproduce the effect by exposing prey animals to comparable sound levels have not reliably knocked them out. Then there is the most quoted counterexample in the whole argument. Sperm whales have been found with severely deformed or broken lower jaws, in some cases twisted badly out of alignment, and these animals were not starving. Their stomachs contained food and their bodies were in reasonable condition. Whatever they are doing to capture squid does not depend on a functioning bite, which points towards suction feeding rather than a weapon. Nobody has proved the stunning hypothesis false, and a small number of researchers still consider it possible at very close range. But the honest state of the science is that it is an unsupported idea that survives mainly because it makes better television than the alternative. The alternative is that the whale simply finds the squid with extraordinary precision and then sucks it in. Not every click is hunting. Sperm whales also produce short pattern bursts, typically 3 to a dozen clicks in a specific rhythm, which researchers call codas. These are not aimed at prey. They are exchanged between animals, often while socializing at the surface, and they are the closest thing in the group to conversation. The patterns are not random and they are not universal. Different groups of sperm whales in the same ocean use different coda repertoires, and animals appear to associate preferentially with others that share their pattern. Researchers describe these as vocal clans. 2 whales can occupy the same water, eat the same squid, and belong to different acoustic cultures. A calf cannot dive to 1,000 meters. Its lungs and its oxygen stores are not ready, which means that while the adults are hunting in the dark below, the young animal is stuck near the surface where it is vulnerable. Sperm whale groups deal with this by staggering their dives so that an adult remains with the calf. That behavior requires coordination, and coordination requires signaling. The brain doing all of this is the largest of any animal that has ever lived, several times the mass of a human brain. It is tempting to read intelligence directly off that number, and that is a mistake, because brain size scales with body size and a sperm whale is enormous. What the size does tell you is that processing sound into a picture of the world, at that range and that resolution, is not a cheap computation. An animal that hunts by listening to faint echoes has one obvious vulnerability, and industrial shipping supplies it. Propellers and engines pump low-frequency noise into exactly the water these whales work in. Seismic airgun surveys used in oil and gas exploration fire repeated high-intensity pulses for weeks at a time. Naval sonar adds intense bursts in the mid-frequencies. The damage is not mainly about deafening. It is about masking. If the echo you are trying to hear is quieter than the background, the information is simply gone, and an animal that cannot hear its echo cannot find its food. Studies have recorded sperm whales cutting dives short, reducing or stopping their clicking, and moving away from areas during airgun surveys. There is a bitter symmetry in the history. The spermaceti organ, the thing that makes this animal the loudest on Earth, is also what nearly ended it. Spermaceti oil burned cleaner and brighter than anything else available in the 19th century, and whaling fleets killed hundreds of thousands of sperm whales to harvest the contents of their heads for lamps and machine lubricant. So the loudest sound any animal makes is not a weapon, and the organ that produces it was not valued for what it does. Humans drained it to light rooms. The whale built it to see in the dark. And now, having stopped hunting them in most of the world, we are filling that dark with our own noise, which is a quieter way of taking the same thing away.